Hello and welcome to DIY Therapy. As always, we'll start with our disclaimer. This podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not designed to diagnose or treat. When beginning any exercise program, it should be reviewed and discussed with your medical professional prior to beginning. Information on this podcast is not designed to replace medical treatment. My name is Will. With me, as always, is Andrew.
One of these days, I'm not going to be with you.
I'm not doing this by myself.
Yeah, no. You're going to do a solo one of these days.
I have heard there's several podcasts I listen to that it's like a couple of guys. Yeah. And occasionally they'll have to do it by themselves.
And is it awkward?
It's not awkward, but it's humorous because it's like there's like a slow descent into insanity.
When you're talking to there is a talent. Like, have you ever like I like the sportscast ones, right? So there's several sportscaster podcasts that go back and forth, and then there's the Will Kane show, that you just kind of see randomly on there, or like Jim Rome, they're just talking to themselves.
I don't know how they do that.
Yeah, Cowherd, what's his
Cowhardy or Cowherd.
Yeah, the Herd. Yeah, they're just talking to themselves. Like, I don't know how they can continue to stay on task and not just go, like you said, go into this insanity that is just you're just in your own mind, and there's just verbal diarrhea going out.
And
I'd be so afraid that if it were just me for 3 hours every day doing a podcast or a radio show, like, what the heck would eventually come out?
It would be disturbing.
It would, because I mean, it's got to be just circular. Like, you have to talk about the same thing over and over again, right?
Yeah.
I would imagine.
I mean, a lot of it is. I mean, you'd fall in the same pitfalls of just like, because you don't have somebody to bounce things off of.
No. Like me, I was just making fun of you for a second, and we just went on a 2-minute tangent. Does that happen when you are by yourself?
If you make fun of yourself and then you go on it, no.
Yeah. Well, I think you just lose listeners really fast, like we have in the last 2 minutes.
We don't have any listeners. What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah, that's right. We need listeners. Hey, so like us.
Yeah, remember to help rate.
Good segue.
Yeah, I know.
We're getting better at this. Woo!
Remember, it helps the algorithms. If you're listening on iTunes, give us a quick review. Give us a quick.
It helps.
Yeah, it helps
the algorithms.
Yeah, the algorithm. I don't know what are algorithms.
Technical. Too technical for me.
Yeah, I'm Gen X, so I'm just outside of what those are. I don't really know. You're maybe a millennial.
I am at the tail end of a millennial. Yeah, but I don't.
Tail beginning.
Yeah, tail beginning. I'm sorry.
In fact, would it be tail beginning?
Well, we've talked about this too. We're in this like weird
what is it called?
Subgroup. I can't remember what it is, but it's basically where people have enough of the analog like background, and then also they're technical enough to be to be in the digital world versus people who are born a little bit earlier.
The early Gen Xers wouldn't be as competent with the computer stuff as like the later Gen Xers, because computers were popping up like in believe it or not, I had typing class in high school. And it was split between...
Like just a legit typing class?
Yeah, learning how to type. Which came in really handy. I can actually type. But you learned on an electronic typewriter and on a computer. So you split because they didn't have enough computers.
Well, they're so expensive. And they like your age group, they like 4 fit in a room?
Yeah, and then it was really hot because the computers were just giving off so much heat.
They had all this ventilation.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't do anything besides just type.
All right, let's get into this.
We're talking about groin strains today.
Groin strains. I think this is
groin injuries.
Women's World Cup. That's kind of the.
What did the USA win by? 13.
13. Talking about running up the score.
Is that a lot? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Okay,
that's a lot. Yeah.
Was it who's against Thailand?
Thailand.
Okay.
What's the capital? Easy.
What?
Thailand. Capital of Thailand?
No, I don't know.
Bangkok.
I'm gonna have to put an explicit now on this. Thank you.
No, it's a city.
No, I'm not taking any.
Did I blow it?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. So we're talking about groin strain. So Groin strains are, and sometimes these are even referred to as like hip flexor strains, hip pointer strains, things like that.
I don't hear them call it a hip flexor strain.
Hip pointer.
Yeah, it makes more sense.
Yeah. So, like, I think what we're going to kind of delineate here is more or less that it's going to be the adductor strain versus like the hip flexor strain or hip pointer strain. So, your hip flexors are really on the front side of your hip, and then the adductor muscles are going to be more on the inside of the hip. So typically what ends up happening is there's either some type of and there's a number of muscles. We're not going to go into
there's like 4 or 5. I cannot remember.
There's a group of muscles that sit on the inside that actually will help to pull the leg in. Okay. Yep. Or we'll actually pull the legs together. Or we'll actually kind of, if you're sitting with your whole leg nice and straight, the knee, and you turn your toe in, or your foot in, that'll actually be an internal rotation. So it helps with internal rotation typically, and pulling the leg across your midline or across your body.
Yep.
And so the thing about it too is it actually will slowly decelerate too if you're, say, cutting.
So cutting, for people who don't know, is basically like you're reversing directions. You're running at someone, and then you immediately you want to get out of their way. You
cut in a different angle.
I would say juke, but cut works too.
Juke button for the younger people. You hit what, X or square on the PlayStation button?
Yeah,
your juke button.
But yeah, you try to get out of their way. You immediately change a fast change of direction. Essentially.
Yeah, and so that muscle on your trailing leg is actually going to decelerate your body, and it's actually going to drive you then usually in your next position or your next direction. It's going to help drive you in that opposite direction. Yep. So it's applicable, for pretty much any athlete, whether you're a tennis player, whether you're a basketball player or football player, soccer player, but anything where you're even shuffling. Shuffling's
moving side to side.
Yep, moving side to side is going to be,
which is pretty much just tennis.
Boom, boom, boom. Or defensive stance in basketball.
Yep.
When we talk about maybe soccer, if you're actually planting and just kicking a nice solid pass, we usually kick with the inside of our foot, which is really kind of dragging the foot into that and using those adductors quite heavily. It's really applicable in almost any kind of sport where you're just not running. So cross country, probably not as big of a thing. Pure sprinting, not as big of a.
I was trying to think about that. The only one that with like track and field that would be like the throwings.
Oh yeah. If you're doing javelin or
not even javelin, but
what's a twirling one?
Either shot put or hammer.
Yeah. Ooh, hammer.
Yeah. It's not actually a hammer. I don't know why it's called it. You know what that one is?
Well, yeah, they're swinging something, right?
Yeah, but it's a ball on a chain. So It's not even a hammer.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're calling it a hammer.
I don't know. It seems like something you'd see in Roman times or something in one of those big battles.
Well, that's where the Olympics came from, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like I know that, or I knew that.
I feel like I knew that, and I just forgot it for a minute.
Yes, because one of those things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's really what we're talking about today. When you look at those types of injuries, there's several things that you can kind of differentiate. When you start talking about like a tendon injury or a muscle injury, you really kind of treat those things all kind of the same.
Yeah. That's always like. We've kind of talked about like imaging before and how it's not necessarily helpful because people want to know the answer, but generally, at least when it comes to physical therapy, we kind of are going to do the same thing.
Yeah, so if there's like a true like big pathology where there's a full thickness, full tear of a muscle, you're going to know it. And therefore you may actually need surgery or there may be some other course of action, but you're not going to be treating yourself with those types of things.
No.
Though there will be a significant amount of bruising, swelling if it's a full thickness tear. There could be some swelling or bruising that actually occurs if it's kind of a partial tear or a small, minute tear, which would be more of that muscle belly stuff. that we've talked about in the past. Those things, as long as it's not something that's reoccurring, can be self-treated. You can certainly help treat yourself or help manage your symptoms if it's not a full thickness tear.
Yep.
And obviously, the higher level of the athlete, that may be you may need more rest. Weekend warriors, things like that. People who are in basketball leagues. Softball leagues, those types of things. Those things are going to be something that you can probably manage on your own. But it's going to be a lot of rest, ice, wait for the bruising, swelling to kind of go down, and then slowly kind of introducing some exercises that we'll talk about in a little bit. The other kind of muscle injury portion of it would be just like more tendonitis type injury. So kind of restraining, restretching that tendon that attaches to the anterior groin, on a regular basis, where you actually become more tender. So usually, the way that you kind of can differentiate these things is that, the big massive bruising is what you're going to see if you have some type of tear, whereas you're going to have maybe some more point tenderness, like if you're just kind of pushing into kind of your groinal region where your hip and your
femur.
Yeah, basically your groin.
Yeah.
You're going to maybe find some more point tenderness in that area.
So specific.
Poke on it and it hurts.
Yeah, and if you move half an inch either way, it's not going to hurt as much.
Mm-hmm. So that may be more of your tendonitis type of injury. If you're actually like more lower down the leg, like in the middle of the thigh, that's going to probably be more of a muscle belly injury. So that's how you can kind of determine those types of things.
A quick and dirty version of...
Yeah. And remember, you can have some point tenderness that occurs down in the middle of the thigh, and it doesn't necessarily mean there's any really tears or structural problem. It could be just some micro damage to this. That's what a muscle strain really is.
Really is, yeah.
It's micro damage at a grade 1. Grade 2 is a partial tear. Grade 3 is like a full thickness tear. Which grade 3s, as we kind of talked about, are something that you're not going to self-treat on your own.
Nope.
Whereas the other two, you can certainly self-treat. But the way that we go about these things and the way that we actually treat these things are different.
Yep.
Yeah. So first and foremost, we're going to rest. We're going to ice. We're going to take away, while we're still in this kind of acute or maybe more volatile and hypersensitive type of situation, we're going to kind of eliminate or take away some of the activities that are actually aggravating it. So if it is running, sometimes people can actually stay in good shape by doing a bike. Because it's actually moving the joint, moving the muscle, but not agitating it, because it's all kind of straightforward and that kind of plane, that flexion plane, just moving the leg, the knee, and the hip straightforward versus that.
It's still stretching it a bit, but not to the extremes of need.
Yeah. So sometimes you can stay in some good cardiovascular shape if you're trying to stay into shape or stay in shape while
rowing would probably work too.
What's that?
Rowing.
Yeah, unless you start to get your legs.
Depending on how far apart,
yeah. You want to keep the legs. You want to keep the knees in line in line with your hips.
Yep.
So if your knees start to kind of get further apart, you're going to start to actually incorporate some of those adductor muscles.
That's a good point.
But so if you keep the proper technique with that could be something certainly that you could kind of stay with. So you could stay in decent cardiovascular shape and try to continue to kind of move along in that pattern with like an exercise bike, something of that nature.
Yep.
But so you're gonna try to take away the activities that certainly are aggravating it, cutting. If it is soccer, kicking, baseball players, when they're kind of swinging, they're going to get a lot of torque on those adductor muscles, and certainly when they're
playing first base.
Yeah, that's a bad one.
There are a lot of times you're like, that's impressive for a man of that size to get.
Yeah, because usually first basemen are usually bigger.
They're
people.
bigger guys.
Yeah, they're the less mobile, but they can stretch that sucker out.
Oh, yes, they can.
So you're going to avoid simply the activities that agitate it, and you're going to continue to try to move forward with the activities that aren't painful. Slowly, you're going to get into a little bit of a run. And if you're introducing that kind of cutting, then you're slowly also going to just start to do, kind of a think of like when you're cutting at 100%, you're going to want to try to cut like at 25% to begin with.
Yeah, almost like it's just like a light hop.
Yeah, it's a jog, and then it's just kind of planting and pushing off.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things. So that's how you'd introduce kind of that athletic activity again. Soccer-wise, if you're kicking a ball, you're starting 10 feet apart and you're just doing quick little dribbles back and forth. Yep. Or passes back and forth, and then you're slowly extending that out and driving that ball a little bit further until you finally get into a place where you're actually striking 60, 70, 80, 90%, and really hitting the ball hard. But those are going to be, all those activities are going to be introduced slowly over the course of a week. Then you kind of move to an intermediate 50, 60, 70%, and then slowly get maybe another week go into 80, 90%, and then go full tilt.
Yep.
Yeah. And while you're doing and introducing all of those activities, you're also going to be wanting to do some gentle stretching.
Yep.
Okay. So there's a couple stretches that we can talk about a little bit. There's just a sitting kind of clamshell.
So you're not sitting quite crisscross applesauce, but you're sitting with your feet, the bottom of your feet together. Everyone kind of knows it, and you're using your elbows to press your knees towards the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's going to stretch the inner thigh there. And all those adductor muscles. You can also do, and that some people call that the butterfly stretch too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can also do kind of a V-sitting hamstring / adductor stretch where you're actually sitting with your butt on the ground, knees straight out, and you kind of pull your ankles and your feet all the way apart so that your whole legs kind of look like a V.
Did I describe, lean forward. Yeah,
did I describe that?
Yeah, that's fine.
That was pretty poor. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you go. You're up.
Wait,
hold on a second.
So you long. Are you ready? You ready for this?
Oh, you're going to use long sitting? Because people know what long sitting is.
No. So you're sitting with your legs straight in front of you. You take your legs, you spread them apart as far as you can.
Listening. Mm-hmm.
Lean forward.
Mm-hmm. Terrible. Okay, moving on.
You're just jealous.
Yes, totally. All right, so again, stretches, you're going to be stretching, 25, 30 seconds. You may want to stretch before and after you start to introduce.
There are some other good ones. Like there are some good yoga poses that are actually... I know I can't do that. But I'm just saying, there are some good ones that would be good for that.
So, if anybody actually knows Will and I, we are the least flexible people in.
Oh yeah, it's one of those things. There's when it comes to demonstrating for any sort of exercise, I can do a lot of really weird things,
but not the stretching.
No, yeah. They're like, okay, you stretch this, and this is how it's gonna look. Okay, I can't do it, but
yeah. So a little backstory about me too. Just we used to do. I played soccer in college, Division I soccer in college, and they did all these kind of special. I shouldn't call them special tests, but all this testing to see kind of what athletic rank you were and all of this kind of stuff. And I always tested very well in all the other athletic ranks. And then I ended up being like average because they average up them all together because my sit and reach test was by far like 25% worse than I can barely touch my knees. I mean, that's like just barely across.
I can't even sit here. I can't sit here.
It's awful. It's just brutal. And somehow I never stretched before or after like doing any time and never really got major injuries.
I always kind of argue that if as long as you're equally tight, right? If everything is tight, then you're fine. If one is too tight, then you're kind of screwed. I always kind of feel that's that.
Yeah, maybe. Like I said, like I did not stretch my entire life. And never had any. I pulled a hammy once, but no major knee injuries or anything like that. And I played at a very high level, my entire childhood, young adulthood, and never had any major injuries. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm the oddity, but I think stretching, there is some value to stretching. So we're not telling you not to.
No,
don't do what I did.
Very common of the medical professional. Do as we say, don't do as we do.
Yep, exactly. And then you're going to want to do some general strengthening though too, right?
Yes.
So there's all kinds of different options for general strengthening.
Yeah, the easiest one to start off with is like a little eccentric. So basically, just put them between your knees, like a ball, and just kind of squeeze it, hold it for 5 or 10 count, and then relax.
Yeah, concentric, but that's okay.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's been a long week. Leave me alone.
All right, so so we can do that. That's a good start. You can get a resistant band, put it around your ankle, and kind of pull your Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do.
Do you want to explain?
Well, I just explained the concentric and eccentric wrong. So you really want to go down this path?
Well, we talk all the time about how I'm terrible at describing them, like verbally.
That's true,
and you're better at it.
I mean, I don't know if I'm better.
I'm giving you a compliment.
It's better. It's better by degrees. I mean, like
really bad or just bad.
Yeah, it's like he's terrible, but he's only slightly less terrible. So basically, you'd wrap the band around your ankle with it leading away from you, and you would bring your foot in towards the other leg.
Sure.
Yeah.
We can post a picture.
I can. Yeah.
You can do a video.
I probably could do a video, but everyone has to bear in mind that my hip range of motion is what is a technical term? Garbage.
Crap. Just as terrible. Yeah. And then there's also like a little bit higher level one would be like the bench strengthening one that I do like to do with higher level athletes, where you lay on your side, you place your leg up on like a bench. Something that's maybe 18 inches high or so. And then you actually, so it's going to be the top leg that's laying on top, and then you actually bridge up into a straight line, which makes
so you're basically lifting your whole body up using the affected leg.
Yeah, you could probably do one of those too.
I probably could do one of those. Yeah. On the right hip, I think. Yeah.
Which hip's your bad hip? Do you even know?
Yes, both. One is worse than the other one.
Cut them off. Just cut them off. But yeah, so, of course, we kind of build up to those, working with lower repetitions and building up to your tolerance and kind of working in some of those, you can start off again with those straight lines, still like repetitive, running, biking type of motions, slowly work into your cutting. Meanwhile, keep stretching, keep icing in between so that you're not flaring up, and slowly introducing kind of the lower level strengthening exercises like Will said, squeezing a pillow ball together, then using a resistant band, and then jumping up and slowly working into that bench strengthening exercise. And that kind of takes you through the whole entire rehab process, with the only problem being is if you go too fast and you have a hiccup, you just kind of back off a little bit.
And if you do have a hiccup that you're not comfortable with, you can always log on to DIYtherapy.net and sign up for one of our wellness consultations, and we can walk you through correcting the hiccup.
Segue. Getting better at this. That's all I got, though.
I mean, well, doing that makes it sound worse. I'm getting better at this.
Oh, you mean pushing our products so that we can continue to have a business and...
Not necessarily pushing products so we have a business. Pushing this so we can help people.
Oh, right. That is what our overall goal is. Yes, we do have the best interest in the individual.
Which individual? Are you talking about your individual?
No. Listen, we got in this
humanity
profession,
as a whole.
We got into this profession to help people, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but there has to be value exchange. Right? That's capitalism.
Yes.
All right.
Although, arguably, we're asking a lot less than what you normally would to walk into a physical therapy
Yes,
clinic.
And that's a good point.
And you don't have to leave the house.
There you go. Do a little screen sharing. Do a little self-evaluation. We get you going on the right path.
Yep.
Brilliant. All right. Good stuff. Anything else?
Not related to this.
Anything else you want to talk about then?
No, but I did watch on Netflix. They just dropped. I didn't know they were dropping it that soon. I think I text you that.
The I Am Mother.
I Am Mother.
Yeah. Don't give it away.
I'm not going to. I'm like I have a very specific way of describing what the actual plot is, and it would be very succinct and very. You would just wrap it up. Like it's the elevator pitch, but visually it was. I mean, like
stunning.
Yeah, the robot was. It's clearly somebody in a suit or whatever, but just like they had a.
It's not Johnny 5. I Am Alive.
No,
Johnny 5. I Am Alive.
Well, I don't know if anybody would remember that. If anybody
Short
remembers,
Circuit.
Okay,
Come on.
I don't know if it holds up. Probably doesn't.
I don't know. I haven't watched it in 25 years.
I have it on DVD. It was a gift.
Why?
It was a gift.
Why?
It was a
Why
gift.
would you have it on DVD?
No. Why would I have the number 2 on DVD?
Do you have that too?
No.
Oh, thank God.
The first one at least is not terrible. The second one is definitively bad.
I don't remember really any. I mean, I remember the plot, but I don't remember how cheesy it actually ends up being.
I don't even. The plot, I don't remember the plot of the second.
You know what? We're having a movie night one of these nights.
Yes, we should.
Yeah, God forbid there's all these things that we really want to see, and we're going to watch Short Circuit.
The terrible one.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can throw popcorn at it.
Yeah. So it was good. Was it good, though? The plot was good?
The plot was good.
Yeah.
There was no major loopholes that I
could
have
poke
with. Yeah, poke at and really kind of fall apart. Besides,
Will is infamously famous for just poking, taking a movie that you probably didn't think about in some capacity and say, not possible.
Well, no, not necessarily not possible. I just I get hung up on fridge logic. So fridge logic, for those who don't know, is basically a movie. You'll be watching a movie or a show or something, and it doesn't spring on you until you're not even thinking about it. You're looking inside the fridge and you're like, hey, wait a minute. So if Marty McFly doesn't go back in time, those kind of things they pop in your brain. That's fridge logic, where it's and normally that's not a problem because if you're not thinking about it during the movie, then it's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
But you get hung up later on fridge logic.
Not on most things. It depends. If I notice it immediately, if they're intending it to be fridge logic, but I notice it immediately, then I have a problem with it because it's taking you out of the movie, and it's well, that's just
they're now continuing with some kind of plot, and you're focused on
it.
Yeah. I'm rewatching Dark.
Dark.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's a German show, and it's about time travel, and talk about fridge logic, because anything where you start getting into time travel just gets
wonky,
really wonky. Yeah. But I watched it. It originally dropped in 2017, and I watched it, binged it real quick, and it was really good. The problem is it's dubbed German.
So you have to pay attention
No, it's dubbed American, but if the first episode,
English.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I speak well. The first episode, you're kind of okay, this is kind of distracting, and then you get used to it because it's dubbed English. But it's really creative, and they're about ready to drop season 2.
Oh, so you're kind of warming up.
So I'm warming up to it because it's confusing. So I wanted to. It's one I've actually been looking forward to, and I told you to watch. Clearly, you don't take my recommendation.
The problem is the only time I get to watch things on my own is when I'm exercising. And
that wouldn't be a good one to watch.
No, that's what I mean. Is
but you know what? Michelle might get into this one.
She might like that.
Yeah, this one's good enough. It's ominous. There's some creepiness going on. It's a nice little mystery that has several different twists and plot. Good plot turns throughout the entire one. It's not like they're just working and driving towards one big thing that they get at the end of the show. They kind of have all these little moments where they have these reveals. Right. So it's kind of nice. But where they go into season 2, that's why I wanted to catch up on. So if you check out Dark, check out I Am Mother. I'll check out I Am Mother. Yeah. And I just finished up Chernobyl, which was phenomenal.
Yeah, I need to watch that.
That was phenomenal.
I definitely need to watch that.
Everybody knows how that ends, so I'm not going to go through a plot synopsis. Yeah.
It melts down.
Yeah. Actually, it melts down.
It's a big problem.
It melts down within the first 10 minutes of the show.
Oh, it does?
Oh, yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, but then they backtrack on how it all happened, so it's done pretty clever, in a clever way too, and it's gripping.
That way, it's one of those 48 hours later.
No, it's gripping. It really is gripping from start to finish.
Because it's a real human drama.
Yeah, and you just you want I will go into this. You see people in the town, and you're like, oh my gosh. You're dead. Yeah. So it's just kind of this, you get really pulled into it really quick, and it's really good. I would recommend it. Anyways, we've rambled quite a bit.
Yes, we're wrapping this up. This podcast was for educational purposes only. It is not designed to diagnose or treat. When beginning any exercise program, it should be reviewed and discussed with your medical professional prior to beginning. Information on this podcast is not designed to replace medical treatment. Remember, treat yourself.